friends, Athens City Manager Seth Sumner here with your daily COVID-19 update. And I have special guests that you can see with me, as we had talked about earlier, with our directors of schools for all of McMinn County and also our county mayor. And I'll introduce them in a minute. We will have a Q&A session and interview with them to help update you on our schools and what to look forward to over the coming weeks. But I did want to start, as we've been doing, with updating you with the numbers from the Tennessee Department of Health on COVID-19. So far, across the state of Tennessee, we have 2,239 positive cases through 3 p.m. today, and that is out of 27,360 tests across the state. Now, what is alarming that we need to pay very close attention to are these next two figures. One being that there are now 175 Tennesseans hospitalized with COVID-19, and unfortunately skyrocketing to 23 fatalities across Tennessee. Only 13 yesterday, 10 new deaths with coronavirus reported today. So that is a total of 23. Some good news is what we've been able to continue to report about McMinn County. And there remains only 3 positive cases in McMinn County. And there are a lot of tests out there. There are 109 negative tests in McMinn County, and more that we are waiting on results from. And we do expect those case numbers to grow in the days ahead. But I think we're very blessed here at McMinn to see still only 3. And that's largely because our population is doing what's really expected of us in social distancing. Our businesses are going above and beyond to sanitize, to offer special hours for older citizens to help keep that risk low. They're also making sure that there are lines placed at registers to keep people at least 6 feet apart in areas that they're able to do that. And then businesses that are unable to do that have closed or closed access to their lobbies in those areas. So very proud to see our businesses doing that. Police Chief Couch and myself have got out in the community yesterday and today to check. Today I'm in the process of actually assigning a team of ambassadors that will be visiting businesses tomorrow and in the days ahead to make sure that everyone is complying and abiding in the CDC guidelines and complying with our governor's executive orders for the businesses that fall under those orders. And so we are out there protecting the public health and making sure that we're able to do that. So more news on that ahead. With me today, I'm very thankful to have County Mayor John Gentry back on the dais with us. We also have Etowah City Schools Director, Dr. Mike Frazier. We have Athens City Schools Director, Dr. Melanie Miller. And we have McMinn County Schools Director, Mr. Lee Parkinson. And so we do have a list of questions, and we'll allow them to answer, but I think it'll be very beneficial for everybody watching and that'll watch this later to have a better understanding of our schools and what the weeks ahead will entail for our students. So I'll begin with asking what resources are available to students during this time, and I'll open that up and have a follow-up with that. Is there a specific website that students can visit? So I think, Mike, you want to start?
I do. All 3 systems have their own website. Etowah City is www.etowahcityschool.com. And
we are athenscityschools.net.
And we're McMinnCountySchools.com.
And some of the programs, these are definitely not all inclusive, but some of the programs that all 3 of our school systems are using are called Seesaw, Classroom Dojo, Remind 101, Google Classroom. We're using daily journaling as well as individual reading and reading logs. Our grade 6 through 8 is using the Louisiana Beliefs units of study along with some daily journalism. We're using the Moby Max with math and Study Island, and also ReadWorks. Of course, again, like I said, this is not all inclusive. There are other programs that are out there that probably Dr. Miller and Ms. Parkinson's is using at their systems, but that's a lot of programs just within itself right there. So what we're doing is we're taking those, and our teachers are using those on the internet, and we're trying to work as much as possible with all of our students. And so, do you have any you want to add to that?
I'll not add any specific programs to that, but we would just encourage all of our parents to look on our website. We update that page daily. We have lots of interactive activities, and our teachers are reaching out. We actually have a continuity of learning plan where teachers will be reaching out to parents, to students, to make things available. And so some of the same programs and additional programs are available on our site, and as I'm sure they are on McMinn County as well.
Yes, we're doing the same. We are involving our teachers in this continual plan of study, and we will be engaging teachers more in the coming weeks. We want to get out front and get some things going initially this week, but next week teachers will become more heavily involved.
And I know even over the last couple of weeks, schools have been out, teachers have been involved in using their time to help feed the needy kids in our area. And so I deeply appreciate that. I went and visited some of those sites and watched them in action. And it's tremendous the amount of kids that we're feeding with these programs. So let me follow up with that question one with another subset. As we look across McMinn County and even some spots in the city of Athens, we have homes that lack internet access, and you gave us a long list of wonderful resources online. What are we doing for our families that don't have internet access? Is there a way for them to get hard copies of materials?
Yes. One of the things that all of us are doing, our teachers are preparing packets of hard copies of some of the same material that they could get online. And you mentioned the food that we're passing out. What we're trying to do at Etowah City is for those who do not have internet or any accessibility to the internet, we're giving packets out when we give their meals to them for those who do not have access to the internet. And I'm sure that Dr. Miller and McMinn County with Mr. Parks are doing the same thing.
We are giving out hard copies with the meals. We're also taking calls where we've had parents come by central office. They call, set up that appointment, and we make sure to have those ready. The office is closed according to the executive order, but the phone is being answered, and we're making arrangements to drop off packets at schools where parents, if they need it, they can access it.
And yeah, we have pickup sites at all of our schools, and also at our central office. So parents can go to their neighboring school and or pick up at the central office.
And Seth, another thing we're very excited about, and PBS, the state has partnered with PBS, and that will roll out next Monday. So that's something we're going to get more information about the directors from the commissioner even tomorrow. And so that will be for many of our students, even if they have internet, not all of them necessarily have the amount of data they need to access because their parents are working from home as well. But we hope that everybody has a TV, and so that will be have lessons every day. And then we're going to get the packets from the state. It will also be online so that we can continue to print additional packets to support
Excellent. So everybody gets coverage regardless whether they have internet
Yes.
access.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you. Children have been out of school for at least a couple weeks now, and we have a lot of school buildings across the entire county. One of the important things that we know why kids can't necessarily go visit grandmother and see their grandparents is because kids are largely carriers of COVID-19. What steps are being taken to sanitize the schools, or are those steps being taken while the kids are away?
Yeah, I'll take that question, Seth, because I think I would speak for all of us. Immediately, as soon as school closed, we took that opportunity to do extensive deep cleaning in all of our schools, deep cleaning, sanitizing in all of the schools. We were doing that before, and I've spoken to both directors using the atomizers, fogging the buildings on a rotation after the students left every day. But once we made the decision after March 13th to close, I think everyone spent a full week working very hard to deep clean and deeply sanitize the entire building. Now, with that in mind, we have feeding sites at our schools, and so we have a rotation with our custodians as well. Now, after we close down those sites each day, get the food packed up, they go in with atomizers and do deep cleaning and sanitizing. All the extra cleaning will happen in the areas where we're actually using the buildings right now.
Excellent. And I know y'all are used to sanitizing the schools because we get outbreaks of flu and strep throat and all kind of things going on, so y'all are accustomed to it, but this is an especially deep cleaning.
Yes. Well, and we have the time right now to go into our air vents, our custodians, all of that, things that we don't always have time to do. So when we do return to school, those buildings are going to be spotless.
Yes, very good. Are plans being looked at to possibly hold graduation ceremonies? I know we've got 8th graders and we've got seniors, maybe looking even late into summer. What kind of plans are schools making?
So I'll take that. We are hopeful that we would be able to do 8th grade programs and graduations in May, but it doesn't look possible at this point. We would like to have options for June, give parents early options in June, and even another date in July if this continues. So that's our plan. Of course, that will take board approval, as all of these things will. We will run all these through our board to get them to weigh in on that also.
And I think that would be the same. We hope to return to school. If we return to school 1st of May, then it would be obvious we would have our 8th grade graduation and proceed. And if we don't, we'll be looking at exactly what Mr. Parkinson said. And I think it is a good time to reiterate what you said, that a lot of the things we talk about today will take board approval and board action as we move forward in this. So a lot of the things we mentioned that we would like to do, we realize may have to go before our board in some instances.
You mentioned the possibility of coming back in May, having the students back, which we hope we're able to, and over this curve with the coronavirus, which leads me to my next question about testing. If you are able to come back in May, do you foresee your system voluntarily administering TCAP or other such state assessments?
No, I don't think so at this time. I don't know. I don't think any of the 3 systems would want to do that at this time.
I would definitely recommend to my board that we not.
Yes.
Our administrative team has talked about that, and I think we all feel very comfortable that we do continuous benchmark assessments throughout the year. We know where our students are, and if we're able to return to school, it would be a time to hit all those knowledge gaps and really focus on catching kids up, some of our students who might not have the opportunities during this time. So we would not want to utilize any time for assessment that we don't feel would be valid and reliable at this point in time.
Yeah, we're pretty much the same. We would like to use that time to catch up on standards that we haven't been able to cover as much as we could during that 3-4 week period. And we would not recommend my test coordinator and my supervisor of elementary let me know quickly today that she would not recommend that to, we recommend to the board not to do that.
And our state legislature has made that an option for the school
It
districts
is.
to choose themselves.
That's correct.
Wonderful. Thank you. Do you anticipate extending classes into June if you do come back in May?
Probably not. Again, we've waived the 180-day calendar, and there would be additional issues attached to that with extending and going on in the summertime. Would be additional pay for teachers, and I just don't think that would happen.
So maybe we need to explain that a little bit, just so everyone understands it. Our commissioner has the authority and the only authority to waive the 180-day requirement. So what happened recently, the commissioner did a blanket waiver. So the 180 days, those days are waived. And the State Department, along with the governor, also assured that we would receive all BEP funding, including transportation. All of the current budgeted amount is we can expect to receive that. So with that in mind, when the school year ends, whatever our end date is in May, that will be the end. Now, you may hear things out of Nashville from the State Department that talks about summer learning. But what's going to happen, we have extended contract, our summer schools. And so there will be talk from the department that we might have opportunities for funds to have extended contract. That's what we used to call it back a few years ago. And that would be summer school opportunities that we would pay teachers in contractual form, just like we do for normal summer school. So we don't want any confusion there when the state's talking about summer opportunities. In no way the 180-day requirement has been waived. So our school year will end on the day it's set to end this year.
Okay.
But there may be opportunities for summer schools that we'll find out about as new money, the stimulus money's coming into the state.
Okay. Good. And so not really given a disadvantage to any students because of coming back and staying later, and there are of course other costs that we have to be aware of running the air conditioning during June and July and things of that nature. Playing sports was very important to me growing up. I was a soccer and baseball player. I was really good at running, so I know that's on the minds of a lot of our students and a lot of our parents. So would there be an attempt to have an abbreviated spring sports schedule?
Lee, do you want Lee has
Well, I'll
Lee
take
has
that
more
one
sports
because
than the
I
rest of us.
know the sports in high school, and the earliest we'll be back would be May 1st. And I just don't see any way that we can get sports rolling again. We've been off for so long. The practices, the conditioning, and those kinds of things, and separate injury, plus the end of the year activities that we have with the possible graduations and those things, and just closing school down in 3 weeks, it just wouldn't be worth it.
I've also been known to cut a rug a time or two myself, and so one important question to a lot of folks out there, if they're not already got who that special guy or gal's going to be, what about prom?
Well, we've discussed prom, discussed it today, and again, we're coming back. We come back so late. Some of these prom dates are at the end of April and beginning of May, so it'd be very difficult. The issue with that is there have been some heavy deposits put down for prom, and we might make suggestions for them to take that money and maybe have some type of reunion or something. If they could get part of their money back, that would be fine also, but it would be difficult.
So we have a lot of students in need in McMinn County, in the city of Athens, in Etowah, and we always look to take care of those kids because sometimes they're not in charge of the household and how they get their meals and when they get their meals, and so feeding at school is vital to good health, good nutrition, them being able to grow and learn properly. And so we're out of school, they're not getting those breakfasts and lunches at school. Tell us about the feeding program that we've been promoting and making sure that families know when and where to get food. So tell me how we're responding to that.
I'd like to answer that, and then I'll let each one of you if you have a separate site. So first, I do want to just give a huge shout out to all of our food service supervisors, our cafeteria ladies, and then all of our volunteers who are working very hard in those sites. They had that up and running on that first Monday after we called off school on the 13th, and it was amazing. And I will just say, I got an update just before I came in here that 910 students were fed today. And when we think about, on that first Monday, it was around 200 and some. So you think of how this information has shared and the need that has continually increased. So we have volunteers coming in, packing food, packing a breakfast and a lunch. And then I also have to, it wouldn't be fair to not give a shout out to our Y here in town, who's also providing dinner meals. And so we try to give that information when people come through and get breakfast and lunch, that they can go to the Y and pick up a dinner meal as well. So we have drive-through service at Westside, Ingleside, at 3 apartment complexes, Clem Jones, Lee Manor, and Forest Hills. And then we're also offering the one at Etowah Baptist, I believe is where that site is. Our food service supervisor oversees that. And so those are the locations on Mondays and Thursdays from 11 to 1. And we have a few more waivers that the USDA has given us. So we can give breakfast and lunch at the same time, and we give multiple days. So on Monday, they can pick up 3 breakfast and 3 lunch. On Thursday, then they can pick up for the weekend as well, and pick up for the Saturday breakfast and lunch. So that is going on. And then also, we have Keith Memorial, and they pack those weekend bags. And so they are continuing to do that, and we're organizing and contacting those parents who typically receive those to get those out. So we have a lot of volunteers working behind the scenes very hard. So those are the sites where we're providing. And so Lee, do you want to, what are yours?
Yes, we have 7 sites. All of our elementary schools have a drive-through service. We also have one, Mountain View does not have one, but we have it a little bit south and west of Mountain View at Good Springs Baptist Church parking lot. And we just try to locate these strategically where no family in the county has to drive more than 10 minutes. Is the way my transportation supervisor and my food service supervisor set that up. And we served yesterday, I'll talk about meals and families. We served 7,900 meals yesterday. That was up about 1,000 from the previous week. We started out with 270 meals the first week, and that jumped yesterday all the way up to 7,900 meals. Of course, we serve also on Mondays and Thursdays, and just like Dr. Miller pointed out, they get the 2 meals for those consecutive 3-day periods.
Wonderful.
We also are doing the same schedule as far as Monday and Thursday, and our pickup is at the school in the mornings and the lunch. And then we also have one of our buses that goes around to those students that we know do not have a ride to come to school to pick up. And so we're delivering around some of our bus routes, not the whole route, but most of our routes to deliver meals. And we're like Athens and McMinn. We started out with serving maybe 100 lunches and breakfast, and then now it's jumped up way above 335 or 375. And I didn't get to count today before I came over here. I'm sure it's grown since I talked to them last, so I did get to count.
Yeah. So keep in mind when we say we feed 900 kids, multiply that by 3 breakfasts, 3 lunch,
Yes.
3 days, or
Yes.
those 3 days. So our volunteers and our food service people are amazing right now in the amount of food they are pushing out the door.
And I too want to thank our food service people as well as the volunteers. And you'd be surprised the number of teachers who have come over just to participate and help make the lunches and breakfast, as well as to hand them to the cars, and to hear the teachers say it was just good to see the kids today, because they miss those children just like all of us do. And so a big shout out to the teachers and for all they do as well, volunteering their time.
Tremendous effort, and it's because they truly do care about all of those children. I love seeing that. I'm married to a teacher myself, and so I understand. I get it. Now, as far as the feeding program, this is all children can pick up these meals.
18
Under 18 years of age. And they need to be present in the vehicle with an adult to be able to pick up the meals.
Well, that's what we had, the guideline we had started with, just so we all know. We did receive a USDA waiver again this week that they have removed that regulation. So we might give some information here one day, and tomorrow we might get another waiver.
Yes.
But as of right now, if a parent is unable to bring the child there, as long as we have a way to ascertain or make certain that there is a child at home waiting, then we can give that meal.
Yes.
So I know parents and students are wanting to know, will there be any mandatory at-home work assigned?
Well, actually, it won't be mandatory, but we're going to try to keep our children engaged in the learning process, because it's critical, particularly with reading and journaling. We feel that it's critical to keep them involved and keep them active, rather than them just staying home and playing video games or playing outside. We would hope that we could entice them a little bit with some work to continue their education and them learning every day something new.
Yeah, and also, Seth, we want to make sure that we're trying to limit interaction. Parents bringing things back, teachers having things, that constant interaction. So we're trying to provide answer keys and ways for people to get the information to help the students, either whether it be online or an actual answer key. And also, and Mr. Parkinson's going to he might have some different answers. Like we have Algebra 1, 8th grade students, EOC, so we do have to wait on the state board to make some decisions about that particular class, and I'm sure the high school, Mr. Parkinson can address that, but that's critical as to what happens with those students, and the state board would have to take action. So I can say for all of the rest of ours, K-8, it is not mandatory, it's highly encouraged, and our teachers are going to constantly reach out to students. But we have to remember, our students are traumatized right now just by this whole situation. Even if they're not exhibiting it, they have been jerked out of their school, their normal life disrupted, so we don't want to add any pressure in that to our parents or our children. So we just want to support them in their learning.
Yeah, and we like to say the schools are closed, but learning continues. And we certainly advocate for that to happen. And going back to, we are going to learn on April the 9th, the direction that State Board is going to go on credits and on grades and all of this. There are some options out there that we have weighed in on. As a matter of fact, I sent mine in today, asking us. They're getting feedback from the directors all over the state, and asking them what they prefer. And there's 4 or 5 options out there, and we're allowed to submit our options. But that remains to be seen, and we're all awaiting the decision on April 9th. That's going to be a big day.
I think this has been will be very helpful for our parents, especially in the community, to know and hear these answers from you. And obviously, we won't be able to be all inclusive. There will be some questions that you're not able to answer just in the span of time here. So if parents have other questions, and this will be a different answer for each of you, I expect, what number should they call?
They can just call our central office at 745-1612. And they'll be directed to the appropriate person, whether it be a supervisor or me or my secretary.
And the same for us, our central office number is 745-2863.
And for Etowah City, 423-263-5483, and it'll be extension 8. And there will be somebody there Monday through Friday to answer from 8:30 till 11:30.
All right, thank you very much. So we talked a little bit earlier about home students that may not have access to internet and what you're doing to overcome that, making hard copies available for parents and students of those materials. A very interesting thought that we've heard out there is there a possibility of maybe producing a Wi-Fi, a free Wi-Fi zone in school parking lots as a safe area where parents may be able to come and get internet access?
Yes, sir. Right now, our parking lot, you can't really get Wi-Fi. Of course, we have some big parking lots, especially at our high schools. But you can get internet closer to the school, but we are not set up at this time to give Wi-Fi to the parking lot. There would be some other considerations there too in opening the parking lot. We're gathering people together in large and possibly large numbers, and I'm not sure we want to go there. And there would be security issues and those kinds of things also. So at this time, we would not open that up to Wi-Fi.
I think we would answer the same way there. We certainly don't want to encourage groups gathering out in the parking lots and encouraging that. But I would again say if parents want to call and ask about certain ways to access internet or anything like that, we would definitely be open to helping anyone in any way we could.
Yeah, I would concur. We're a social community. And so I'm afraid we would take advantage of the situation if we met up with a bunch of people. I would be apt to get out of the car and try to go shake their hand and say hello, and I'd be the first one to be breaking the law.
People are in their house, they're wanting to get out, they're wanting to socialize, and we understand that.
Yes.
But we wouldn't want to add to that.
One thing that you'll hear more of in the near future, it's already live, but downtown Athens, around the courthouse and in Market Park, in the parking lot, and like you, would not want to encourage folks to be social and breaking the guidelines or any executive orders of our governor, but if folks were to come in their own car and need to log on to free high-speed internet, we do have free Wi-Fi in downtown Athens that they could come and log on, download documents, and be able to take those home and use them. And so that is provided by the City of Athens, and Athens Utility Board actually installed that and is managing that program for us. And so that is free and available to all guests. And so that is perhaps an option for some of our families. All right, testing. Are there any ACT prep courses currently being offered?
Yes, there are both high school websites. They can log on to either high school, McMinn Central or McMinn County High School, and just to hit the appropriate link, and it'll take them to ACT prep courses.
And that, of course, will be vital to our high schoolers in preparing for college, and we certainly don't want anybody to get behind with that. So thank you for providing those resources to those students. What about dual enrollment classes? How is that being handled?
It's not changed. They've been able to maintain. Nothing's changed with dual enrollment or dual credit either. So they're rolling on as at least from day to day.
Wonderful. Now, if Governor Lee were to extend the recommended school closure past, right now it's at April 24th, would you likely consider the 2019-2020 school year finished as of March?
I think our board would want to follow the recommendation of the governor, and if he I don't think any of us want to come back for 1 week or anything like that. But again, I think if we came back May 1st, I think we could make really good use of the month of May. But
Yes.
I think we would follow his recommendation.
I concur, yes.
Wonderful. I've got a surprise question. One thing that was weighing on me earlier today, and we have students that have special needs, IEPs. How are those students with those special needs being addressed during this time that they're away from those specialists that are actually able to intervene with them?
Can I answer part of that? Yesterday, I met with our special ed and our special ed teacher, and they are meeting with our regular ed teachers as they're preparing to make the packets and do the other online. And we're making sure that we're trying to make sure that we are sticking with and staying with IEP as written. And so we're actually doing some home visits with our speech and some other things that we have to maintain with our IEP. So hopefully, and I'm sure that the other two systems are doing the same, we're all trying to be legal and stay legal and meet the needs of those students because they're very important to all of us.
Yes, so, and we've been getting a lot of guidance. We all had a conference call with the State Department yesterday for about an hour solely talking about special ed services. And an IEP is an individual education plan. So our teachers, what we're directing them to do is they're all case managers. So if a student has an IEP or a 504, there is a case manager, and they are making individual contact with parents. And we're having, because we still have evaluations that we're under deadlines for. So ultimately, it's going to take individual contact. Our teachers have started doing that. And then we're making arrangements where teachers have to come into the building to prepare special things, like Dr. Frazier just said, that we set up a time for them to do that individually and get that information out, even if we take it and drop it off in a mailbox. And then we're doing some, for instance, speech services where they can be done online. So we're just having, that is truly individualized and just having to make those calls to see what's next. There are a few cases that if we return in May, we would double up some time of speech services or things like that. So just individually working through that.
Yes, we're pretty much doing the same. We are making home visits. We are doing, we can do some of these IEP meetings when we have to have large groups of people in a meeting. We're doing from the Zoom app. And we also are going to open up our schools for OT, PT, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and speech. And we can open up in any individual school building for them to do that. And those are one-on-one situations where they meet with these students, in these cases, for 30 minutes. And so it's a long day for these folks, but we're contracted with them, with a lot of these companies. And we're going to make that happen. We're going to follow that IEP and give them the service they deserve.
And so Seth, I'm sure the others do this as well. So when we're creating those type of schedules, that might be going on in a building. Nobody even really realizes that. There's one teacher in there, the parent has an appointment, they bring the child in.
Yes.
And then our custodians have that on their schedule and they make sure to go in and deeply sanitize again at the end of each day. So we're working through those schedules as well.
Very good.
Yes.
I want to allow you each, and we'll start with you, Director Parkinson, if there's any special message that you would like to share with the community or your staff at this time.
Well, the community's been outstanding. We've had people stand up and just pour the help in. We've had teachers, aides, bus drivers, our own employees. We've had community members step up, and I am proud to be a member of this community and see this community pull together. Athens, our three school systems are pulling together. We're doing a lot of things together, not just because of this, but we've started, we have a pretty good relationship here. We travel a lot together to meetings, and our schools are pulling together. But I am proud of our teachers. I'm proud of our entire school system. Our board has been supportive through all of this, and I'm just pleased with where we are as a community.
So I don't think I can add to what Mr. Parkinson said. I would just echo his comments. We have a waiting list of volunteers who are ready to help, and I think it's just wonderful that we've not had to reach out and say we're short on people. People are in the throes just waiting to volunteer and help in any way we can. So the same thing, I want to be very appreciative of from our school board to our administrators, to our teachers, faculty, and staff. And if I could say just one thing special, Athens is it's a great place. McMinn County is a great place, and our families are wonderful. And I just want to especially tell our students how much we miss them. And my heart goes out for our students because, as I said, they've been ripped out of their normal routine, and they want to know when can they come back to school and pick up their things that they've left in their desk and in their cubbies. And so I'm really praying that we do have an opportunity to return to school, because our students need that, and we just miss them. And so during this time, the safety, the health, the well-being of our students, that's our first priority, and everything else we will make work according to that. So.
Thank you.
And they've actually said everything I would have said, but I do want to say this. I not only appreciate all the faculties and the staffs, but I want to thank the community as a whole. I want to thank all the churches. I know there's been millions and millions and millions of prayers. And to me, that's the most critical thing any of us can do in this community, is to continue to pray and ask God to be in charge of who we are and in charge of this situation. And we know that He is, and we know that He's faithful. And so I would just encourage the community, as well as all faculties and staff and city managers and mayors and everybody else, to continue in prayer. Thank you.
Thank you all for being with us today. Mayor Gentry and I did leave off with you yesterday with a promise to come back after we've been able to study a little bit further Governor Billy's Executive Order 22. We did report of Executive Order 21, which is supplemental to 17, and I know that can be confusing. Two orders were put out at the same time yesterday, and some folks were mixing up the starting point of one with the meaning of another, and so we just want to be as clear as we can and guide you to the Secretary of State's Trey Hargett's website so that you can actually pull up the executive order, read it yourself so you are familiar with it. But I know Mayor Gentry really dug down into this last night and today and wanted to provide an update of those orders. And so I'll turn it over to you, Mayor.
Well, thank you. First of all, I really want to thank the directors of schools. I guess I'll interact more with Director Parkinson because we share a finance office, and so we see each other quite often. And I can tell you, it's amazing how somehow during closure you're working harder. And so I really want to really thank you all three publicly. I really want to thank you on behalf of 55,000 citizens that call McMinn County home, and the parents of over 8,000 students that you three collectively serve. Thank you for what you're doing and reaching out. When you hear about the feeding taking place, you really realize, and especially the special needs students that are still being taken care of, that our schools are so much more than just centers of education. They are fabric of this community in times of emergency. Just this morning, I had reached out to Director Parkinson about a commodity distribution for some emergency food, and you had to be pre-qualified, but we needed some volunteers because the workforce that handles this is locked down. It's usually handled by inmates that handles all this labor, and they cannot get out during this time. And so we didn't want to cancel this, and so immediately I called the director. He offered the school and some staff, and then First Baptist of Athens immediately had called and said, we want to help. And it was just right there willing. ready for the volunteers, and we might have broken the law this morning trying to separate all the volunteers, and but it just reminded me of the type of community that we really have. And so in addition to thanking our school system, I want to really echo City Manager, what he mentioned earlier. We're doing remarkably well because of the citizens, and it really is a testimony to you that you are operating what we call the spirit of the law. And when I asked to address Executive Order 22, and there's a comment issued by the governor that really sums up how this is supposed to go into effect. And it states, the governor says, because with personal liberty comes great personal responsibility. All Tennesseans must do their part by staying at home whenever possible for a limited period of time to avoid exposure to and slow the spread of this virus, which will limit the burden on the healthcare resources and allow normal activities to resume sooner. But he emphasized personal liberty with great personal responsibility. And Executive Order 22, it really begins with a summation of the coronavirus situation. He reiterates the healthcare practices that's been sent out all over national media. You know, work from home if possible, avoid the social gatherings of 10 or more, avoid discretionary travel, avoid our nursing homes and long-term care facilities to protect those that are most vulnerable. You know, when you have to be together, stay at least 6 feet away, practicing safe social distancing. And simple, and what our school systems have been trying to teach our kids for years, wash those hands. Wash for 20 seconds, hot water and soap. It's simple, but that's how we stop it. And that's what the beginning of Executive Order 22 does. It does two other things, though. It issues what we call the Safer at Home order. And it's not to be confused with a shelter at home order. There is some movement allowed, but it comes with great personal responsibility if you're going to engage in essential activities. It urges the Tennesseans to stay at home unless you're doing and participating in essential activities. And the city manager mentioned it's a 12-page order, and I won't read all that to you, obviously. Go, if you're watching this, you have access to internet, obviously. Go to the Secretary of State's website or Tennessee.gov. It's easy to remember, and look up the governor's executive order, and he lists all of those essential activities and businesses. We are receiving non-stop phone calls, emails, Facebook personal messages. What are essential activities? What are essential businesses? It's a pretty exhaustive list of what's on there. I just encourage you to go on there and read that list. Another issue of Executive Order 22 is the closure of non-essential businesses for public access. That is not saying closure of non-essential businesses, period. It's saying non-essential businesses should engage in a new way of conducting commerce. It's saying venture into online, venture into alternative ways of curbside or delivery of your product. And if you cannot do that, then you do need to close. But he's giving you that option if you can at least practice a new way of engaging commerce at distance as you from the customer. That you'll be closed to public access, but there's to be a different way if you can engage in that it will be allowed. If you can go online, do curbside or other forms of delivery service, that is allowed. All of this being done in the spirit, though, only as a means of last resort. If you do not have to do it, even if it's allowed, don't do it. We had earlier proclaimed that we were allowing our playground to remain open at Bicentennial Park. That is now closed today. The park is open to allow you to exercise at a distance, but there's too much risk with not being able to keep the playground sanitized. You've done a wonderful job. Not once have we had to go and break up a crowd of more than 10 on the playground, not once. But still, there's too much potential risk with the virus being on the playground material. So that is closed as of today. I think we don't always appreciate things until it's taken away. And I know in my home, I've heard 2 students of the public school system say, I'm ready to go back to school. And it may be my cooking. I don't know what it is. They are ready to go back and see their friends. Yes. And we begrudgingly, education, we think, well, it's a mandatory tough thing. But when it's taken away, we learn the value. So maybe that's the silver lining in this deal with our schools, that we realize what an asset, what a privilege it is to be able to attend our public schools. And when that's taken away, we learn the value of what learning really adds to life. And so I hope that's what we take away. Thank you again for taking your time to be with us, and hopefully we were able to provide some answers to some of those common questions that our citizens have been asking.
Thank you, Mayor, very much for those comments. Just to reiterate what our governor is stating and what you hear us portraying locally is that your liberties are being upheld. And it's because we live in the Republic. We live as free citizens that we're held to a higher standard. We're being asked by our governor to stay at home if we can. If we can't social distance in our business, then please close. It's an ask. And it's something that your government is not coming in and telling you to do anything. We don't do that. This is government by the people and for the people. Citizen-led, citizen-driven. We're asking everyone to be responsible for your own sake and for the sake of everyone, especially the vulnerable people, and many of whom that we mention in these vignettes, is that we want to make sure that we're taking care of our children, our elderly, and all vulnerable people in our population. And we all carry the burden every day, every moment, to making good decisions on our own to make sure that we're protecting our neighbors and our friends and our family. So I also love to look at, I couldn't help but think, looking at everybody up here, I really don't think citizens get to see how well our county, our cities, our schools, that everybody that's working for you works together. We work very well together, and this isn't a new or different thing that we're doing in part of a crisis. This is every day. We're very blessed here in McMinn to have good working relationships between your different levels of government. And so I'm very thankful for having that relationship with all of you. With that, please look back with us tomorrow. We'll go live with Athens Police Chief Cliff Couch and myself following up, and we're looking at maybe having some other special guests throughout the rest of the week. But we'd love to have you tune in, be informed, share factual information that you yourself can go look up and check and make sure that we're telling you the facts. And we're keeping calm and we're carrying on. And I wish that everyone out there stays safe and happy and blessed. May God bless McMinn County, and may God bless you, and may God bless Athens.